Okay, let's look at our vocabulary from yesterday. I want y'all to look at zero. There are other words for zero. So AKA, also known as. So I need you to add this to your journal. Zero is a root, an x-intercept, also a solution. Where it crosses the x-axis. It meaning the function. So if it's the quadratic function, it's where the U-shaped parabola crosses the x-axis. And we're going to write it as x equals some number, wherever that point is, or wherever that point is. So x equals some number. If it doesn't cross at all, then it's a no solution. You put a 0 with a slash through it. We're going to start with number 2 on the packet. So we're going to go through all the different characteristics of quadratics. So in Algebra 1, that's mainly what you're doing. You're understanding the vocabulary and you're identifying it from a quadratic function or a graph. As long as you know your vocabulary, you can find it, and that's how it will be tested. So let's look at number 2. It says, identify the key characteristics features in the graph below. Then give the value of each feature characteristic. So the quadratic function is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So go ahead and write it in that form. So it could be written in this form, which is called standard form. So this is a parabola that's upside down. The thing that determines that it's upside down is the a value. So see how this a value is a -2? So the negative determines that it's going to go downward instead of upward. So it looks more like a mountain than a valley. Okay, the domain, it's going to go left and right to infinity. So it's x is all real numbers. So go ahead and use the symbolic representation. X is an element of all real numbers. And we're going to go through each one of these, not in any particular order, more of things that we can find first. I don't do the range first. I wait until I get a few more things to come back to the range. The range is all the y values. So we look at the graph, and we are going to determine whether this has a maximum or a minimum value. So a maximum is a highest point, a minimum would be the lowest point. Because this goes on and on forever downward, there is no minimum. Minimum would be negative infinity. So we have a maximum value. And we actually need to find out what that maximum is. So it's like the highest. So think about sea level. You have on the sea level, which would be 0. And then you have below sea level. And then you have above sea level. So it's dealing with the y-axis. So to determine what the maximum or minimum is, you see what's the highest point, whether it's a mountain, or the lowest point, like in the ocean or the valley. So it looks like it's at 0. So maximum is 0. We're just going to put the number that the maximum or minimum is. And I'm going to go ahead and put on here max. My maximum is right there. That's the maximum value that the quadratic is graphed. The vertex is the point where it changes direction. So it's a coordinate pair. So it's right here. So you write it as x comma y. So x would be at 1, y is 0. So this coordinate pair is 1, comma 0. Then our number of roots, 0 solution. So remember that's where it crosses the x-axis. So we're looking to see how many we have. 1, 2, or none. It only crosses or touches the x-axis at one spot. So we have 1. And we need to actually find what that solution is and write as x equals. So we're going to look at where it crosses the x-axis. So look at the numbers on the x. So that would be at 1 because it counts by ones, but it's only labeled with 2's. So our x is 1. So x equals 1. Now we'll do our axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry is the line that cuts it in half, and we draw it with a dotted line. It goes through the vertex. So go ahead and draw your vertical line for the parabola. Okay, and we write that. So if you look back at our notes for axis of symmetry, it's written as x equals some number, wherever it crosses on the x-axis, wherever that dotted line crosses. So in this case, it crosses at 1. So our axis of symmetry is x equals 1. Now we'll do our y-intercept where it crosses the y-axis. So we look and see it's right here. And we need a coordinate pair for that. X is, you go 0 left and right, down 2. So 0, -2. And we can actually find our y-intercept with the c value. See how that's -2 and so is our y-intercept? That's where it crosses the y-axis. Those are all related to each other. So go ahead and label the c your y-intercept. So if you don't see it on the graph, which in one of these problems you won't see it on the graph, but you can just look right here. If it's written in this form, the c value is your y-intercept. Okay, our last thing is the range. So range is the y values. And it's either less than, equal to, or greater than or equal to. So if you look back at your notes over here, we have kind of like a little hint over here. If you have a maximum value, it's y is less than or equal to a number. If you have a minimum value, it's y is greater than or equal to a number. So this is a maximum, so it's going to be y is less than or equal to whatever the max value is. And that's 0 right here. So y is less than or equal to 0. So these values should be the same. Your max or min and your range should be the same. And it's less than because it's a decreasing function. If it was an increasing function, it'd be greater than or equal to. So just refer back to our notes for that. Okay, we're going to go cross out number 8, but we're still going to do number 10. We're not going to worry about number 8, though. You can cross out number 8. And we're going to go to number 6. All right, same thing, same setup. Look at our equation. Let's go ahead and write the standard form. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So this one's written in that form, but there is no c. So what would c be equal to? What would not change it? If I add what to it, it wouldn't change it. Yeah. So c is 0. Which, remember what c is? It's our y-intercept. Does it cross the y-axis at 0? Look at it. Here's our y-axis. Yeah. It crosses at 0. So we can go ahead and do the y-intercept. It needs to be a coordinate pair, though. So that's right at the origin. 0, 0. All right, now I'm going to go to max or min. So this value, yeah, it's the highest value. It's like a hill the highest part of it. So we have a max. We do need to identify what the max is. So what's the highest that the hill goes on the y-axis? What is that value? See, it goes here. So you just slide your finger over till you get to the y-axis. The highest that it goes is 8. You'll see that? 8. So go ahead and put 8 there for your max. Okay, and then our vertex is the coordinate where it changes direction. So we need to know what that is. So start at the origin, go left or right, and go up. What are the coordinates for that? Follow my pencil or my pen. 2, 8. So my vertex is 2, 8. Okay, number of root 0 solutions. That's your x-intercept. Look at your x-axis. You can label if you need to. Where does it cross the x-axis? And? Yeah, these two, 0 and 4. So number of root solutions is 2. We have 2 of them. You could have none if it never crosses. We need to write what they are. It's this point, so we're going to write x equals 0 and x equals 4. You have 2 of those. Write them down. You write both x values where it crosses. And we're talking about where the U-shaped parabola crosses. Okay, axis symmetry. Draw your dotted line down the middle. It's a vertical line. Remember, Vux, x equals some number. Where does that vertical line go through on the x-axis? 2. So our axis symmetry is at 2. X equals 2. Okay, and then our last thing is range. It's the y values. I look at the max or min for that. Because it's a max, it's downward, it's decreasing. Less than or equal to 8, exactly. So the rest of class time, you will finish this and turn it in. Make sure to use your notes so that you know what to do.